kid on the left snuck in the astronaut program in the fourth group. Up to then, everyone had to be test pilots. Then NASA put out a call for scientists who wanted to fly in space and fly high-performance aircraft. Over breakfast one morning, my wife read the article in the Los Angeles Times. I'd like to say that I carefully deliberated pros and cons of such a drastic career change. But I applied at 8 o'clock that morning. For 9 months, NASA and the National Academy of Sciences, as John pointed out, sifted through about 2,000 applicants. And they finally concluded that in all that time, they could only find, in all of the United States, 6 healthy scientists. Skylab, home for 84 days. When you launch, you are literally thrust into a whole new environment. After a day, you feel sick. When you look in the mirror, this pumpkin looks back, this round red head with bright red eyeballs. No longer countered by gravity, your arteries and your heart continue to ram the blood up towards your head. It feels like you're laying down here back on Earth with your feet a little bit higher than your head. But after a few days, you lose around 3 pounds of water, and you feel good again. My friends. Well, after these first few days of sickness and working hard to become so efficient, it all becomes so easy and so effortless, as demonstrated here by strongman Jerry Carr. As a matter of fact, one of the real stresses of spaceflight is that there are none. Without gravity to work against, your muscles weaken if you don't exercise enough, and your bones will also slowly lose calcium and also weaken. It's pretty much like a bedridden patient down here. Well, the harder you work, the more efficient and confident you become. Soon you realize that space is not foreign, it's not hostile. After a while, it becomes familiar and just downright comfortable. Come to think of your space station as just an average 3-bedroom home, just 300 miles high. It feels so solid and so secure, you really don't feel like you're flying at all. Until you finally leave it in your small, agile reentry vehicle at the end of the mission. Then it's just like leaving your home down here, sliding into a sports car and accelerating back on the road again. Although it doesn't look it here, our space station was really comfortable, and we've been content to stay up there for many years. If we have friends and family along. Maybe a good pizza delivery. Another look at our beautiful Earth. Scenes like this just continually come over the horizon and slide beneath you. Think I might be setting you up for something? How many of you like to go outside on a spacewalk? Not so many hands this time. Don't trust me. Well, let's talk about it. I had the opportunity to venture into the great outdoors 3 times. So when you're out there, it's a silent world. Except for the whispers of your own breath, you don't feel as though the world below even knows you're there. But then you think of the many people down there in mission control who monitor everything on the station. Every word, your every breath, and every heartbeat. And you realize that even if you're up there all the way, you're being supported in the most extensive way possible. Here's Ed White, the first American to walk in space. We all respected him for his quiet courage as he led the way for the rest of us. Unfortunately, he was later killed in the Apollo fire. Okay, what is it like to walk in space? Let's all go up to the top of a tall building. 50 stories, maybe 100 stories, that would do. But now, let's open a window after you've looked out and where it's pleasant and relaxing. We'll now open the window and we'll take you out one by one to the end of a long springboard, where we have a steel-fisted Arnold Schwarzenegger going to grab you by your ankles and hold your head down. Now, intellectually, you'll know you never fall. And even though you're at the same height as you were inside, you have to admit, it feels a bit different. Well, on a spacewalk, you get that same feeling, just more of it. Head down, you glide over Earth at a very serene 5 miles a second. And the laws of Sir Isaac Newton give you full intellectual confidence that you're up there to stay. But when you move away from the station and look down at Earth, 300 miles below, and feel, or see. Nothing else around you. This little whisper seeps out of the back of your mind. Suppose that Newton guy was just a little bit wrong. With your own eyes, or with the slightly improved vision of the Hubble Space Telescope's eyes, you see sights like the Crab Nebula, and you wonder, will we ever travel to places like this? Where are our space programs going now? In many respects, our prospects for our nations in space have never been brighter than now. Most important, we have still within our people a spirit and will that wants nothing more than ever deeper explorations of space and its profitable use. And we have physical facilities across our nations, second to none. And charging from the front door, we have our youth, equally motivated, but far better trained than those young engineers that took us to the moon. And lastly, we have our graybeards, engineers and managers with knowledge and wisdom from decades of experience. In the U.S., despite accidents and tight budgets, 3 goals for manned spaceflight remain. First, the International Space Station. With persistence, we should expect to find new materials of engineering and biological importance, especially now that we have the Columbus Laboratory in full operation. We'll also continue to gain new knowledge of how our bodies function without gravity, important for better understanding how they function right down here on Earth, as well as our future long-term missions far from Earth. But it will take 5 to 7 of the right crew persons to really perform the top-notch science and technology experiments. There is no good reason that we cannot perform Nobel Prize quality science up there just as we do down here. The roadblock to full utilization of the space station is the orbiter. It's a great piece of machinery, even though most of it's over 30 years old. Its major drawback is its cost. The orbiter is limited in its future. If we retired in 2010, it will not have another system in place until at least 2015. And during that time, we'll be heavily depending on the Russians for access to the space station. The new system is called a Constellation. The spacecraft is called Orion, which you see at the lower left. And the booster is called Ares. This system is like Apollo. It is designed to go into Earth orbit and also back to the moon, but it's just about twice as capable. Next, we see a return to the moon. Not only for exploration, but also to better prepare us for our next step. If I know Jack Schmidt, who got the program with me, a geologist, very determined, he was trying to find a way to bring back his rock sample. Also within the decade, the private sector might step up and provide the much-needed, low-cost access to space. This is Burt Rutan's Spaceship One, which recently won the X Prize. It's apparent that Burt had great vision, and after watching the flights, it's even more apparent that his pilots had great courage. Private companies can run more streamlined and leaner operations. Clearly, commercialization can stimulate growth in space, just like it has done in the aviation industry. You finally using our experience from the space station and the moon, and maybe using them as actual stepping stones, is on to Mars. Its importance could go well beyond exploration. Mars was once a much hotter and a wetter place. It had a dense atmosphere and rivers flowed. So the question is, why is it so barren now? Once we understand the answer to that question, we'll also know a lot more about the future of our own planet. From recent pictures of Martian surface, we've seen strong evidence of water, and we've become more excited than ever that someday we might just find some smallest, slightest evidence of life. Eventually, just as on Earth, settlers will move in behind explorers. They'll be limited to bringing along only the barest of essentials. And beyond that, beyond our solar system, it's interesting to speculate. Along with new telescope systems on Earth and the Hubble Space Telescope in Earth orbit, one of the best locations we can imagine for astronomy is on the far side of the moon, where we have a stable platform and we're free of Earth's radiations and atmosphere. instruments set up at one or more of these locations someday might be capable of seeing planets around other stars. And if we do see one, a blue planet, one with an oxygen atmosphere, the pull would be irresistible. We'd have a crash program for light-speed flight, then a mission that would fire our imaginations far more than any episode of Star Trek. But we all understand that the distances out there are immense. On our Starlight flight, we traveled 45 million miles. That's the distance a light goes in 3 minutes. Yet it takes light over 4 years just to reach our nearest star. So clearly, when it comes to space travel, we have barely put our toe out the front door. But we sense we're on the front end of something much larger than any of us can imagine. Travels and adventures far greater than anything we can now picture. We also clearly understand that we will never stop exploring, never stop reaching outward. It's hardwired into our psyche. I believe that if you scratch deep enough into the tough hide of even the most hard-boiled, sophisticated space engineer, lurking inside you're going to find a trepid. Now that's someone who knows that all of the data we bring back from robotic missions is interesting, sometimes very exciting, but ultimately it's we who have to go there in person to see and feel new turf up close before it ever becomes a true part of our own world. I also believe that one day in the long term, driven by the human spirit and other great leaders from around the globe, we will travel to the rest of the solar system and yes, eventually beyond.